There's one thing that the Kansas City Chiefs have to do in this draft or in preparation for it. We're going to get to that with Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest today and go over his mock draft. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Matt Derrick is here with us today. We appreciate you making us your first listen, and check out the draft show on Locked On NFL Draft for another one. I do a lot of work over there. We appreciate you being here with us, part of Locked On Network, your team every day on all platforms for free, ever and ever and ever. So check us out, like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube, and check out all the audio platforms. He's Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. I'm Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, home of the Athletic Matrix, where you can go get something right now today at RogueAPC.com, whether it's the draft guide that should be out soon or the Athletic Matrix. Use that code Locked On and you'll get yourself a nice discount. Matt, it's been a while. How are you doing? You keeping up with this whole lack of info, black hole kind of thing?
I'm really looking forward to next week when we've got OTA starting. And even though it won't be really draft prep, we'll get We'll get some coaches, we'll get Mahomes, we'll get some players, and then after that we'll get Brett Veach. And so we'll start to put a few pieces to the puzzle. But you're right, we are kind of in radio silence right now.
And I always know that it's something a little bit more than normal when I hear about random tight ends and wide receivers getting into town, and I don't hear about it until they leave. And nobody knows anything about who was where and when and why. Nobody's talking. And this isn't to point fingers at anybody who may have left the organization in the last year, but it's definitely a lot quieter this year than it is normally. Or is that just me, or do you have better context than me?
No, I definitely feel the same way. I mean, and some of it is probably just a legitimate reflection of, what's going on. I mean, from a visit standpoint, if the Chiefs aren't having a lot of big name guys that get a lot of attraction, I mean, if you're a first round pick, maybe early second round pick, everybody's going to seem to know your top 30 visits. I mean, there's just all over it. But you know what? The Chiefs are focusing mostly second, third, fourth round type guys. Then maybe they're a little bit below the radar. Maybe there is a little bit more, hidden agenda this year than maybe in some past years. Certainly, I think that, it's probably just reflective as a culture change overall that I think maybe teams and agents are trying to be a little bit more protective of certain things. So maybe it all plays into it. And then again, maybe it plays into the fact that the Chiefs just aren't talking a lot, about a lot of things. I mean, normally, at this time last year, you're starting to hear a little, rumblings about the Chiefs and the Ravens, and maybe there's something there with Orlando Brown. A couple of years ago was Frank Clark. Maybe the radio silence is also reflective of the fact that there's just nothing to talk about.
Yeah. If you hold on, folks, just close your eyes for a second, unless you're driving. Yep, that's a sound of absolutely nothing happening. That's where we're at right now. And we'll talk about the seconds and thirds and fourths because that is important. There's a lot of picks. We'll do that here coming up in a little bit. But for me, this is a team with 2 first-round picks. 2. There's got to be more chatter than this unless, and I think I am of the opinion now that they cannot, no matter what, they cannot stay at 29 and 30. Because we'd hear about it by now. We'd hear about more of what they're looking at because it's difficult to gauge who's going to fall to that range. So, are you on board with they can't stay there?
Well, I'm always of the philosophy that late round picks are no man's land. I mean, because if as an NFL evaluator and a personnel executive, you can't get value there because chances are, I mean, most teams around the league are going to have 17, 20 guys that they've got first round grades on. After that, you're talking about second round grades. The chances of you sitting at 29 and 30 and getting a player that you have a first round grade on falling to you at that spot is single digits, almost 0. Maybe it is 0, maybe 0.1, but I mean, it's just not going to happen, which means you're going to take a player that you probably think is a second round pick and you're no longer getting value, which is one reason why I'm, in the past years, Chiefs would have loved to have traded out of that spot. This year with 2 first round picks, I mean, to me, the answer is simple. I mean, especially with all the currency they've gotten, 12 picks overall, if you want a choice of who you're getting as an edge player, if you want a choice of who you want cornerback, even if you want a choice of one of the top 4 wide receivers, you can't do that at 29-30. You're going to have to move up. There's a chance that maybe the 7th best edge rusher, the 5th best corner, and the 5th best receiver falls to you at 29. You got some choices to make, but that's not necessarily the choice that you want to make.
29 and 30. It's abandon all hope territory. You got to go up with 29, in my opinion, and maybe it costs you one of the thirds. Okay, there's 6 top 100 picks for a reason. So optimal for me is targeting teams like New England, New Orleans, and Philly pretty easily. I don't know about going anywhere above that. Above 15 gets very, very pricey very fast. Do you think they even attempt to go that high? Are we talking about, hey, let's just move up into 23 because there's one of those top 6 receivers that we still like?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you go into the top 15 probably if you certainly feel like that there's just a player that, I mean, to me, you think is a top 5 player that has fallen. To me, you don't move up at 15 to get a player that you think is the 13th best player on the board. That's just not smart value. And if the Chiefs want to go from 29 to 15, what is going to be the cost? I mean, remember, it cost them 2 first rounders and then some to go from 27 to 10. And that was for a quarterback. So, that to a degree you can rationalize, but you want to give up your first 2 round picks at minimum to go up to 15 to get a receiver. That's questionable value. I mean, that's the kind of moves that honestly, it's kind of move Cleveland makes. It's kind of move Jacksonville would make. Those are teams that just don't end up on the good end of draft picks very often. So yeah, to me, but I'm with you. I mean, if you can give up, and I think the real, where the Chiefs would probably find the most value, considering they've got 2 picks in the top 50, if they were able to parlay those into say 20, early 20s, 21, let's just say at random, and 42, move up and move up, move back, move up. I mean, to me, now you're getting what, one, you think is a first round draft pick. And 2, you're probably getting what you think is one of your best second round choices available. So if you can be guaranteed of getting who you wanted in the first round and who you wanted in the second round, and all it cost you is 1 pick, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I definitely am too. We'll walk through a couple of situations here in a minute after we get back from a couple of our pals that you guys need to check out. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses at a fraction of the cost. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. And the big thing is their insane protection program, and it's included for lost or broken protection on every single pair that they sell. They will send you a brand new pair of sunglasses if you lose them, no matter what happened. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head over to shadyrays.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of their polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for the best deal this season, 50% off of 2 or more pairs of their Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Thank you to everybody there. Got to let you know about the live NFL draft show across all of Tegna and all of Locked On. Yours truly and Eric Crocker, we're going to be hosting the marathon this year. We'll be on Roku. We'll be streaming. You can find us on anywhere that you can get streaming television. We'll be in studio in Dallas, Texas. Different look, different feel. We'll have a ton of guests and a ton of our individual hosts helping us as we go through the mock into the actual live event. There will be small mocks on the Locked On Chiefs channel and every other channel just before that. And then as it kicks off at 7 Eastern on the 28th, you will get me and Crocker live as we go through the entire process, through the whole draft. You can check it out on any streaming service where you can find Tegna, as well as the Odyssey channel on audio as well. And lots more. We'll have some more information for you on the Locked On Chiefs YouTube page as well. Now, that all out of the way, we're still gearing up for it. And like you talked about last time in the last segment, yes, it's good to move up so you can go get one of those. Normally, the Chiefs board is going to have 21st round grades on it. So that becomes problematic. Again, like you said, falling. But then the trickier part is moving back to a place that you feel comfortable you can get another one of your targets without dropping too far. And you mentioned 42. Is that the limit for you, or do you think that's the sweet spot? Or how far back, knowing that they have 50 already in the bag, how far back can they go and really get something done?
Yeah, I mean, mid 40s is really about my limit as far as I would want to go before you start talking about, because once again, I mean, even though these rounds are usually 32 players, some rounds are longer than others, so
Right.
not every round is created equally. um, but once again, I mean, you want to be in the middle part of that round, if you want to truly get value, because once again, I mean, if you get late into the second, now your the chances of getting a guy that you got a second round grade on are diminished, and maybe you're getting a guy that you got a third round grade on, especially if it's at you've put yourself in a position of need. And and if we are, collectively, the conventional wisdom is the Chiefs probably need to come out of this top portion of the draft with an edge, a receiver, and a corner. I mean, pickings are going to be pretty slim at two of those positions for sure by the mid 40s. So to me, I mean, I think you can feel like you've got reasonably good value if you get the low 40s. So like 42 to me is a sweet spot to be at. I don't want to go lower than maybe 45, 46. Then, it seems like that's kind of the line. And this year's going to be a little bit different, and position groups are different, but corner and edge, to me, I mean, there's a big drop off there. Whereas in receiver, I think you're going to find value at receiver pretty much any round that you've got.
Agreed. And it's to the point, like you said, that they're setting up visits with players that we expect to be second round, third round, fourth round. I don't expect of 8 picks that they have through the fourth round. I expect them to only take probably at max 6 players. Those picks are meant to be given up in order to move up from 29 and 30, move back a little bit. Maybe if you can't get anything done, I could even see going up twice if it's going to cost you thirds. If it gets into the seconds, then I'm a little bit more hesitant. But if they end up with 2 firsts, that they've gone up and gotten guys that they want because of falling, and they end up with a second and a third, and maybe you give up both of the fourths, does that come out in the wash for you to be enough players added to this roster that you feel can make an impact?
I mean, I think it would. I mean, and especially, hey, if you're the Chiefs, what are you looking for out of this draft? What do you really truly need to accomplish? I mean, I know everybody's going to say, oh, we want starters at every draft, every round. It's not realistic. And, and what your production that you get is also pretty key. I mean, I do think that the Chiefs, given the amount of currency that they have, I mean, they need to get 2 or 3 starters out of these top 100 picks that they've got. And if that means taking multiple shots, that's one approach. The other approach is that you minimize, the number of selections that you got, but you get better choices and minimize the risk. So, yeah, I mean, if they're moving up in the first round and they're moving up in the second round, and maybe even they move up in the third, I mean, you may end up with fewer players, but you're taking more guaranteed, you feel like better shots. Quality shots, rather than, maybe taking a little bit of flyer. Because once again, I mean, as we've talked about, there's not 32 first round picks. There's not 32 second round picks. The value is not there. I mean, you need to be at the right spot, taking the right positions in order to get the most value out of your draft.
I'm completely with you. And it is about the premier positions for me, because I agree with you. I think wide receiver is deep, the deepest of all of them, including both corner and edge. I think edge actually gets a little bit iffy pretty quickly outside of the top 5. And my top 5 is a little bit different than everybody else's. You can check that out over at Rogue APC, and you'll see the new Substack that's coming with all my rankings before we get to the draft here as well. But for you, Matt, how important is the pass catcher priority? We've seen them have visits from wide receivers and some tight ends, which I find a little bit surprising, given they brought back who they brought back, and they still have Gray and they still have Fortson recovering. Is it any pass catcher that you can try to get a mismatch with? Does it have to fit a mold at this point with MVS and Juju in-house? Or what, if you're in the room, are you telling Brett Veach to go get?
I mean, I still think that the one thing that they're lacking is, a true big X type receiver, the kind of guy that can, win some one-on-one matchups, that can catch some deep balls, to take a little bit of off the plate of what you're depending on with Travis Kelce and asking him to do some things right now, and then asking some guys to do things that they can't do. That's the one thing that they're missing is, that kind of, 6'3" guy that, can run a little bit, but is reliable. And I know I'm describing a guy like George Pickens perfectly. But, that's the kind of receiver, I think that they need is just somebody that complements what they already have. It's not about, to me, doubling down and, getting your next Tyreek Hill is not necessarily what this team needs. There's only, I think, one Tyreek Hill. So there's not really, I'm not even sure that it's probably in the best interest of the Chiefs or the next, receiver that this team has, that it's a cookie cutter Tyreek Hill, because that's going to be a lot of pressure on the player or a lot of pressure on the Chiefs, and it probably won't work. So, I think there's a model that they need that's a little bit different, because once again, I think they need something else in this offense that's been missing, because they got a lot of other pieces. But honestly, I'm not surprised at what the names that we're seeing with them visit, because I think we all generally agree that their bigger needs are corner and edge. If you're going to be taking a player in the first round, that's probably where you're going. But this draft is so deep that I think there's going to be quality receivers that can come in and play immediately in the second, third, and maybe even fourth rounds. Whereas I don't think that's true at the other spots, especially edge. I'm with you. I think it gets very iffy after a while. And corner, you can always find players that fit your scheme and do what you do, like L'Jarius Sneed at certain places. But there's no guarantee to that either.
Yeah, I think that everyone has been, quite frankly, made a little bit spoiled by L'Jarius Sneed. Getting that caliber player to develop from the fourth round is really impressive. And that's where Zion McCollum should go. It's where Tariq Woolen should go. They're going to go on day 2 just because that kind of athleticism doesn't grow on trees. But film-wise, that's where they ought to be. Can they do that again? Do they make that kind of selection? It all depends on how many picks that they have, how they go about it. We're going to get into what Matt did for his V1 mock and how he went about it here, coming up right next. It's that time of the year. You might not be done with your New Year's resolution, but you got to keep fighting for it. Whether you're trying to get fitter or you're just trying to live a cleaner life, Built Bar can help you. These are the bars that you want to get. They're the best tasting protein bars out there. They're incredible. And it doesn't matter if you like the cinnamony churro, the coconut marshmallow, the straight coconut brownie chunk that I love, as well as the toffee almond. They're all there. They're all delicious. And they give you what you need to try to stay fit and support yourself in your goals for this new year. They're low calorie, high protein, and low in everything that you don't need. You can go over there. They're generally about 130 to 150 calories. They have 4 grams of net sugars. They have 4 net carbs. They have 17 on average grams of protein per bar. You can compare it to like a candy bar. It's like 240 calories. And that's what you get, the difference in using Built Bars. Mint Brownies, popular flavor right now. They have a bunch of the new puffs that are the marshmallow protein. Our offer, as always, is at Built.com. It's the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off of your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Right next is a new term that I've coined because I don't say things correctly. So now is right next. And Matt's going to walk us through his first mock, V1, over at ChiefsDigest.com. That's where you can go get it and follow along. But in this one, I think you played it real straight. You stayed where they were in the top 3 picks, just bam, bam, bam. And you took players that you thought were fits. Give us your overview. I don't want to give the whole thing away, folks. Go read it. But Matt, where did you come from on this one?
Yeah, the mock draft version 1 was really, to me, just an experiment to see how the draft would unfold with the Chiefs sitting back where they were. So you can kind of see, what's a realistic idea of what options might be available. I'm not a big fan. Some of the draft tools that are out there are not perfect. There's some flaws to them.
None of them are.
But what I really hate is the cherry picking mock drafts where, you don't use a tool and you're just saying, okay,
right.
well, I'm going to take this guy in the 3rd round when, this guy's a consensus 2nd round pick or maybe even a 1st rounder, but you're going to get him at 92. Okay, great. Not going to happen. So I like those thought experiments about being able to, so this was no trades, nothing. This was just straight up. Let's see how the board's going to unfold at a few places. There's always going to be some surprises and wrinkles. Didn't see Derrick Stingley going number 1, but that kind of indicated that this draft was going to be corner and edge heavy. But and as a thought experiment, it folded out kind of what I expected. 7 edges, going off the board early. I think 5 corners went off, 4 receivers. So when the Chiefs get there at 29, what are the options that are there? And and for 29 and 30, I went with Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State as the edge rusher. And I went with Kaiir Elam as the corner. And one, I think that those might have been about the best case scenario for the Chiefs. If for anything, I think they're 2 players that probably fit what they want to do. Elam especially. That guy, I think, is of all the top corners, that guy is probably best designed to fit into the Chiefs defense. And I understand why there's other guys that are graded better than he is. But as far as what the Chiefs look for, height, length, production, man, ability to play man, aggressive. He ticked off all the boxes. And, is this a guy that, you can see, playing outside against the Jamar Chase? Yeah, I can see that. So, to me, that's hey, Ebiketie, there's some question marks, but I think his athleticism is decent. Is he a, Tamba Hali light? Maybe. I can see there's some comparison there to me. Beyond the Penn State thing, but
right.
Hey, I think those were the best of the 2 best case scenario for both of them. There could have been worse choices available for the Chiefs at that spot. And then coming back later, I got George Pickens late in the 2nd round. I do not think he's going to be there at 50. That's just, I think, was just a fortune of the draft. But once again, that's, to me, it laid out that if you're the Chiefs, if you want your choice, if there's one of the guys that's those top edge players or top corners, you can't get it at 29. You want your choice, you're going to have to move up. Yeah. If you want a solid 2nd round pick in the 2nd round, I'm not sure it's going to be there unless you move up, from where you are. And then after that, it's, I would like to point out, I just used the 7th round as picking guys that I thought I probably need to draft these guys rather than get them as priority free agents. So that was my whole point in the 7th round. If I'm Brett Veach in my future, I'm probably going to use my 7th round picks to get somebody in the 6th.
Yeah, I agree. If you can get into the 5th, I think there's still quality there as well. Then you came back day 2. Obviously, Pickens was pretty good. I liked your 62 pick. You clearly have been seeing the same things that I have, but it's funny because I think a lot of fans will be caught off guard about what the priority is in taking a backup potential swing tackle at 62. What did you like about Abraham Lucas from Washington State? And then we'll let folks, go read the rest of it.
Yeah, one, I'm with you in that, remember, the Chiefs don't necessarily have a starting right tackle right now. We don't know where Lucas Niang is from an injury standpoint. The chances of him being healthy for week 1 are not great, which means Andrew Wiley would be your incumbent. And even if that's the case, you need depth. The big thing to me with Lucas is that, he had 5 million pass block snaps at Washington State. Right. So he knows how to protect a quarterback. He's a natural at that spot. This is not a guy that you'd be looking to necessarily move to left tackle or anything. He's a born right tackle. If he doesn't pan out at tackle, honestly, I think you got a great number 3, guard, an interior type lineman as a fallback. But, to me, as a pure right tackle, there's a lot to like there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Last comment, and folks, ChiefsDigest.com. It's the top story there. Go watch it now, or read it now. Sorry. I'm used to the YouTube thing, Matt. The other key thing that I thought you hit well, that is something that I always have in the back of my mind as well, is you got 2 players from the national championship college foursome. And I thought that was important. And I think that level of performance and that level of competition is important to bring onto NFL rosters. Was that a concerted effort on your part? Did it just fall that way? Or what do you like about that option?
One of them was definitely a concerted effort because, I taken Balin Spector from Clemson, for instance, in the 7th round. Once again, it's, you get a player who's played, at a championship level. You played a lot of football. You get a guy that honestly, to me, he's probably Dorian O'Daniel. But you know what? Every team needs a Dorian O'Daniel. And if he comes more than that, and somebody, because, he's kind of a tweener, but he can, play. And then to me, yeah, once again, you're looking at guys who, you want guys who have played in big games, because I think that it has shown consistently that, players who have played in big games, they're ready for the big time. It certainly helps out in the transition. So to me, I mean, I think that's part of it. I mean, I'll grant you too. I mean, even though I took some guys outside the Southeast, that's always a consideration too, because Brett Veach and the Chiefs love the Southeast. So
as
you
you
know
should.
what? Hey, I'm willing to go outside the Southeast for a right tackle, but other than that, if I'm looking for my speed guys, I'm looking for that kind of thing, I'm going to go that's where I'm going to go, because that's where the Chiefs tend to go.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And overall, I really like what you did there. I think we'll come back and talk philosophy next week. But folks, ChiefsDigest.com is where you can go read that from the man that knows the team better than I do. That's for certain. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you change it up for your next mock. I look forward to that. Is that next week, or when is that coming for us?
It's going to be later this week, next couple of days. So, and this will be the first one with some trades. So we'll move around and see what we can do on the board.
I like it. Folks, get ready for the draft. Matt will be making an appearance on the draft streams on the RGR channel, and we'll have coverage for you here with Chris all day long while I'm doing live draft show from Dallas. You want to check that out as well. We'll have more information for you as we get closer. But Matt, thanks for all of your time today and being with us.
Absolutely. It's getting exciting, Ryan. Take care, everybody.
It is almost here, folks. You have a great day, and we'll have more for you tomorrow.